to this conversation presented by White House Custom Color. I'm Jed Toffer. Thanks for listening. You know, my wife Vicki and I have owned and operated our photography studio, V Gallery, for 20 years now. White House has been our lab for the last 16 of those years, and we could not be happier. White House is a family-run business, just like ours. If you haven't already, check them out at WHCC.com. And if you want to drop me a line, feel free to email me at jed@WHCC.com. I can relate to the behind-the-scenes people. It's generally where I choose to reside myself. I tend to feel most comfortable playing a supporting role, and it's fun to chat with others who are the same way. George Varanakis fits that bill perfectly. He's a workhorse that makes things happen and he keeps people happy. And he does almost all of it behind the scenes. I got to chat with George a bit at the Portrait Masters conference in Phoenix this past fall, despite the fact that he is not a fan of interviews and the like. But seriously, he's a great dude. Get to know George a bit, and you will not be surprised at how and why he's found success. So you hate these things.
I do. I hate these things. And I get asked to do them every once in a while. Most people don't even know who I am. I think most people think if they see me...
these days most people don't know who you are. Is that right?
Correct. I'm kind of the guy behind the scenes. All the vendors know me. Mm-hmm. All the attendees know me as the drink ticket guy, I think, from WPPI.
You're the guy...
I was like, wow, I'm really popular. It's only because I'm giving out free drinks, drink tickets.
You could have tested that and had a whole convention with no drink tickets.
No drink tickets, and I would be the loneliest guy at the party. I just always have a stack of drink tickets because I look at these conferences, and when I was at WPPI or here at the Portrait Masters, like, this is your party, right? Yeah. You're the host of the party.
Yeah, you are.
You want to make sure everybody has the best time.
The host needs to make sure everybody's happy.
Everybody's got to be happy. Mm-hmm. And so, I love it. I love doing it.
Does that seem, though, I'm going to throw this out there, does that seem contradictory to not liking doing this?
Probably.
I'm wondering.
Probably. I don't know. But I don't mind doing this. This is fun, obviously. I love you. You're one of my favorites in the industry. But
I appreciate
it. I just hate being on camera.
Yeah, well, so do I. That's why there are no cameras. That's why.
I appreciate
That's why
that.
This is a podcast, my friend.
I will never forget. It was probably my second week at Creative Live when I had started, and Craig literally pushed me on the stage, and Tamara Lackey was doing a sales class. And we did the sales thing for 30 minutes that my entire family has watched. It says it has 1,000 views. I guarantee 999 are family.
I gotta watch it now.
And I was just sweating. I was pacing. I just really hate it. I've been fortunate enough to be best man in 6 weddings, right? So, which is great.
That's awesome.
But I probably put a hole in the carpet from all the pacing I'm doing, and I'm just sweating.
Really?
It just drives me crazy.
You don't want to be up there.
I don't. I love it. If you get the crowd going, you tell a couple of jokes, right? Then all of a sudden you're like, ooh.
I didn't realize that we were so similar.
We are very similar.
That way.
I hate to do it, but then all of a sudden midway through, if I feel like I have my fastball, then you're like,
in the midst of it,
it's on.
If you're hitting the corners, it's the biggest rush there is.
It is.
Yep. And then afterwards, I get stomach cramps and I need to sleep for 3 hours because it's so overwhelming.
Yes, I know. It's so funny. For the, I have a new level. I've always had a huge level of respect for all the instructors in our industry because what they do, it's hard. Yeah. Getting up in front of people is hard.
To do it
well. And to educate and everything. And so it was funny. I did a best man speech for my cousin back in May, and I was texting with Sue, and I was like, do you get like this for every single one of when you go Tuesday Lives, when you go speak? She's like, yes. I'm like, well, if I really wanted to lose a lot of weight, that would be good, because there'd just be a pit in my stomach. I would never eat. I just have that stage fright.
And I don't know which way I go, because sometimes I will deal with stress with food. So I would either weigh 120 pounds or 420
the same.
pounds.
I would probably be.
There's no middle ground.
There's no middle ground. But I have so much respect for people that can do it and do it well and go up there. Especially even here, there's 500 people here.
Yeah.
And Sue was like, do you want to go up and say something? I'm like, no,
I do not.
Nope. They didn't come here to see me. They came here to see you.
You do just fine. Right. And they came here to see you.
Right, exactly.
Right. This isn't the George Varanakis conference.
No.
And I know it's not
Population
called it's not called the Sue Bryce conference, but it's kind of the Sue Bryce conference.
It kind of is. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you guys have to be on top of the mountain right now.
I think we're incredibly fortunate to be where we are. This is just our second year, and just the energy and everything. It's been amazing.
It's a big deal.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Honestly, I sat through 2 or 3 entire programs.
Wow.
That's as much as I've sat through. Platon,
who was incredible.
Okay, so this is a confession. I didn't know there was a Platon. I didn't know. There's a lot of people I don't know. This isn't like my wheelhouse, so to speak, right? But Parker, so I read the name. Parker tells me, because I talk to Parker every so often. He's like, I am going because of Platon. And I was like, who is it? It sounds like a video game to me. Like, what is this Platon? And he goes, you just need to see him. So I go in, and I'm a huge cynic. I'm a skeptic. I'm a cynic.
This I know about you.
I'm kind of I can be not the nicest person. I know these things.
No, that's not true. You are one of those.
Well, so I sit down, and this guy gets up. I'm engaged. I'm captivated, really, and feeling weird that I am, because it doesn't happen very much. I didn't want him to end. I didn't want him to stop. I thought to myself, give him another hour. Like I almost texted you, give him another hour.
Oh,
just let the guy keep going.
I really wanted to. Like,
and
he was so good.
Well, I'm sitting there with my wife, and then he's towards the end, and then Vicky's like, I tell you what, I wouldn't want to follow this guy. I said, I'd get the flu so fast. I'd be like, I can't make it happen. And then we're like, well, who is it? We couldn't remember. And then we're like, oh, it's Sue. So that's fine.
Right. That'll work.
I'm glad it's nobody else, because they're going to walk away.
Right.
But he was on another level. And so, and that was at the beginning, right? So it got me really fired up for the rest of the conference. And I know I rolled into Zach Arias, and I stayed that whole time.
Unbelievable.
He's
so good.
He's Dean Collins.
He is.
Dean Collins.
And that's a huge compliment. I mean, Dean
I hope
was
people
amazing.
know that. There might be people that don't know that if you don't look him up. Because Dean wouldn't even, and Zach didn't know this. I told this to Zach. I said, Dean wouldn't even show up at a conference. He'd send a tape and fill a room. People would watch a VCR tape of Dean Collins. 300 people captivated by Dean Collins on tape. That's how he rolled.
That's pretty good.
Baller.
I don't think anybody could do that.
Well, he's a baller. He's a legend. Well, now we have YouTube. So in any case, you guys have a phenomenal lineup. You have a great system. I attribute it. Okay, so in my mind, Sue's kind of on the front end of things, making sure all the people are happy.
Yes.
And you're on the back side of things, making sure the vendors are happy, making sure the cogs are greased, making sure. Is that an accurate
pretty
assumption?
much. Yeah, I mean, I'm overseeing the whole thing. It was kind of similar to what I'm did at WPPI.
Right.
I'm in, I help pick the speakers. You're putting out fires the entire time. You're making sure the vendors are happy. You just want to make sure everybody is happy.
But you're not answering to anybody.
Right.
Yes.
Which is different from years past. It's a different chair.
Is it a beautiful thing?
Yeah, I'm having more fun in my life than I ever have. I just can't stop smiling. It's just amazing. It's great. I would just get, and I loved my years at WPPI. We had an amazing team, and it was great. It really was. I'm really proud of what we did.
An important time in your life, I imagine.
It was. And man, I would just get beat up.
Yeah.
I would come out of there just beaten and bruised.
I know it.
Because, it's a huge show. You had 16,000 people, 350 vendors, and then my phone would literally just zzz, Canon would be calling me going, hey, can you tell Sony to keep it down? And Sony would be like, tell Nikon to keep it down. And then I tell Olympus to keep it down. And it's like, okay. And it was all day. It was microphone wars back then. It was great.
That's right. I remember those. That was like significant back in the day.
Yeah. And but I love those times. I always felt like we were growing so fast, and I've been really fortunate in my career to be on 2 freight trains, and then this is the third.
Now a third, right?
Yeah, and I've just been so incredibly lucky. Like, we started growing so fast at WPPI. I mean, you were there, and I always felt like our kind of year that it was like, okay, this is legit, is when we had Blues Traveler play. And Blues Traveler isn't for everybody, but it was a name band that played at a photo conference.
It was a big deal.
It was a huge deal.
Yeah. We got to go backstage, and John Popper wanted to hang out with my wife.
That's right. Remember that.
And she didn't really know who he was. And I'm like, this is awesome. I get to meet John Popper. And I'm shaking his hand, and I'm talking to him, and he's looking at her and shaking my hand the whole time. And then there's a picture even. And I'm standing, I was like, I get to stand next to him. And in the picture, he's like hugging up on my wife, and I'm like 1.5 feet outside. There's like a group picture. I'm like,
I think I remember that
that's
photo.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that was interesting. They didn't really, like, I was invisible. And I loved Blues Traveler. Like, it was my idea.
You and me both.
Yeah.
Here
we
we
were
are
invisible, but, like, there were a few other people that were not as invisible.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Let me ask you this, because you mentioned these freight trains, right? I think that's a great analogy. Personally, what do you attribute that to? I mean, because let me ask you this first. What was before WPPI for you? I don't even know.
I worked there twice.
What?
Yeah. So it was my first job out of college, which again, that's kind of a freight train a little bit, but I worked at Chiat Day advertising agency.
Okay. I don't know.
TBW at Chiat Day. So they had just gotten Apple. So the Think Different campaign.
So they blew up too.
Yeah, they had. I mean, they were a huge agency, and it was like one of those times. Like, I'm just a snot-nosed college kid, just right out of school, and I think I was. By the way, this is even people that have ever dealt with me or know me. Like, my job was to approve expense reports. And I was probably the least qualified guy ever, because I was just like, this sounds good. Yeah,
well, that'll work.
$4,500 dinner. Like, there was only 3 of you. Sounds good. Like, just go.
Hope it was good.
Yeah, and then finally they kind of clued in, and they were like, "Yeah, I don't think this is a good spot for you." So I moved over, and I was an account executive, I think, on Infinity Cars.
Oh,
but it was such an amazing first job in that, like, the average age was like 28. It was like college extended, but it was this work hard, play hard mentality where, like, everybody was like really talented. I mean, the Think Different campaign is probably one of the greatest campaigns still to this day.
Is that from them?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a badge with that on it still. I love it.
Lee Clow. I mean, these are like, added industry like gods.
Yeah.
He was the one that created 1984.
That's
famous Super Bowl
the one.
ad.
That's like the ad.
That started Super Bowl.
There's
advertising.
that, and then there's everything else.
Right. And so, everyone there is creative, and everyone there is driven, and and it sets you up for as you go, in life.
Yeah.
Your first job and everything. I always think my parents did a good job of just instilling that work ethic kind of thing. But and then when you get on these freight trains, you go, oh, okay. Well, now everybody is going,
or you're gonna die. Like,
you're out.
You're in there and you're getting after it.
Exactly.
Or it's not gonna work for you.
Exactly.
And so you went from that to WPPI?
I did, because I wanted to go more into sales.
Okay.
And so I was there for about 1.5 years. And then I moved on and kind of just did like the ad sales game. Went to like PC Magazine and
wow.
a couple other like things. And then I didn't love those jobs because for me, like, I'm not one of those PowerPoint sales guys. Like, I always kind of want to know, like, what do you need? Instead of, here's what you need. Here's my PowerPoint, ping, 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 ping.
Okay.
It was more of like kind of solution sales.
Relational.
Like, tell me how can we help you?
Right.
And that's really, I think, the key to sales. Not that this is about sales or anything, but like, that's always been just my style. Sometimes it's not for everybody, but like, build that relationship, build that trust. When we started Portrait Masters, I only really asked the vendors that I was really tight with. Because if we screwed it up, they'd be like, okay, we give you a pass.
We still love you, George.
We still love you, man. Give me some drink tickets.
What's next? Give me some drink tickets.
Just give me some drink tickets and we'll make it better. Yeah. So those are the vendors that I consider friends. Yeah. Like I said, hey, we're trying this new conference. We'd love for you to be a part of it. And I knew they'd give me honest feedback too.
Right.
Like,
there's that piece.
Where are our blind spots? Because when you're sitting in this chair, you can only see so much. There's certain things you can't. So I always want to like, tell me what we're doing wrong. I don't know. I know there's some things that we're doing right. Tell me what we're doing wrong.
Right.
And so I think what came out of it was, and just after our first year, it was, holy cow, this community is really something. Like, you don't see this anymore. Sue's community is tight. They're really energetic. They want to learn. They want to learn about the vendors. They want to learn who's speaking on stage. They want to learn from each other. That energy that we had that first day in registration, I was like, ooh, yeah, this feels like old school WPPI days.
Old school.
You know?
Yeah.
And not that they don't have it now. I'm just saying, like, there were those days when we were like, it was before you opened those doors, so trade show doors on the first day, that line that was going out at the MGM through the hall and everything, and you just felt that energy. And I loved it. It was great.
So using that and springboarding from that, how big can this get?
That's a great question, and it's one I don't want to do like what WPPI and PPA do, and Shutterfast and those guys, like that. They have a great purpose. Like those shows are all really good, but they're over 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever.
Right.
It's hard. I don't want to go. I want to keep this boutique, and I want to keep it small, and I want to keep it like.
So do you draw a hard line in the sand and say, we're going to cap it here? And
we did. So the first year we capped it at 400. We sold out in 24 hours. So I was like, I think we have something here. The worst part was we had decided, so it was Sue, myself, and Kellen, our audio guy. We were flying to Australia to meet with Kelly Brown. We were doing a studio tour, and we were going to shoot some content. So we had launched it before we left. We had like a 10 o'clock flight the night before. Registration opened at 9 a.m. that day. So I couldn't sleep on that flight, and it's like a 15-hour flight because I was sitting there going, I don't know how, is this going to sell it? Are we going to land and we're going to have 2 sales?
So you found out when you landed?
Yeah. Found out that we had sold out when I landed, which was awesome. And we were just all high-fiving, and people were looking at us weird, like, what are you doing? But it was just like, you're an hour out, and I was just like pulling my hair out going, okay.
And then you land and you find out best case scenario.
Right, which was great.
Could be better.
And, this year we sold out in 4 days. And so I kind of like that.
It's bigger this year.
It's bigger this year. We added we're 500 people.
Right.
I think it will probably go up to 600. But will this ever be like a 5,000 to 10,000 person show? No.
Right.
Because what we do, I think, is different than anybody else. And when you start getting bigger, you can't. Like everybody got a Stella light here. That we have Oprah moments.
That was an Oprah. I've never been in a room for an Oprah moment.
Oh, that was crazy.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. And
so I didn't know what it was.
Right.
I mean, I knew it was a nice light, and I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I found out how nice it was.
Right.
And I'm just shocked.
Yeah.
People were going crazy. Now I see why.
Right. Yeah. It's so cool. And so then we did the posing cards.
Yeah. Yep.
And, it's 250 poses, 125 cards front and back. If you feel it, it's like 10 pounds.
Yeah.
It's like, man.
They're big. They're big things.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and then the third thing we did to the Graphy Studio folio box.
Yeah.
So we basically built in, you have over $1,000 of value just in coming back to you, because look, it's not a cheap ticket.
No.
And so we really wanted to, like, the attendee experience is what we were all about. Like, you make the attendees happy, you've done your job. Right?
You know what I like? I like the breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Right.
It's
like all
right
your
there.
meals are taken care of.
There's a flow. You're able to maintain a flow. It's not like, I got to go off property. Oh, we had to wait an extra 25 minutes at this restaurant. It's all here. It's all ready to go. It's all delicious.
Yeah,
I'm a huge food truck guy.
Awesome.
I'm a food truck fanatic, and there's food trucks here.
They are so good here.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
it's
it
really
really
not.
is.
It's really not very good for me at all, but it's delicious.
This is like the greatest diet for me in the world, because I've been looking at my, like, how many steps you taking. It's like
because you don't
30,000.
stop moving.
I don't stop moving. I'm like,
just
going back and forth, putting out fires.
You can eat that cheeseburger then.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Have that
I just never eat, because you have that like nervous energy kind of thing.
Well, there's that too, right? You'll lose 10 pounds at this.
You do.
And we're in Phoenix, so it's 107.
And you're right. It's 3,000 degrees here. You're going to sweat a little bit, but
so circle back to my question. I don't want to forget this. You've mentioned these freight trains, right? And then you even added one. How much of those experiences do you attribute to something about you?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, you're the common denominator.
Whether
you like it or not.
I think I'm just incredibly fortunate. I've been really, really lucky.
It's luck?
Yes. I mean, WPPI would still have been WPPI.
I call BS.
Oh, well, okay.
Okay.
Creative Live would definitely have been Creative Live.
Let's do this. There's some luck involved.
Sure.
But what else is involved? I mean, it's not just that. Are you really good at picking the horses? What's happening?
I do like picking the horses. I've been to the Derby twice. I grew up in Del Mar, right next to the racetrack. So I have been to the racetrack a few times.
Totally unintentional.
Right. Wow, I didn't know this is where this was going to go. Some self-reflection. Oh my God. Self-reflection. I really think I've been incredibly fortunate to be put in positions where I could excel. So I'll give you an example. Every job I had up until the second time I was at WPPI, didn't love. And then, so Skip Cohen was my boss.
I remember.
And so he and Bill Herder, who was the greatest editor ever.
I know. Yes.
They recruited me to come over, and I think I was selling some magazine space somewhere. And so I came over, and Skip was the guy that like kind of believed in me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to be that PowerPoint sales guy.
Yeah.
I could be like, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think? And all of a sudden, we became like a really good jazz band. Like
He saw talent in you. He saw the potential.
Maybe, I don't know. And so all of a sudden, like, we were riffing off each other and coming up with these amazing ideas, and they were working. And I was like, oh, wow, here we go. And then it started growing, and we started throwing more gasoline on it, and it just kept going and going. And it was, I was in my early 30s, and I had an absolute blast. I mean, that was fun. Because when you're rolling, that momentum it's contagious, and it just keeps you. That momentum keeps you go. It keeps your brain sharp, and so you're always kind of thinking of new ideas.
It was a unique time in the industry too.
It really was,
wasn't it? Those were like the golden years for some reason in my mind.
Well, digital had just caught on, and you were seeing there's this new
People
wave
were
of photographer.
getting their footing in it,
right?
And really, really Creative Live in my mind. Correct me if I'm wrong. You'll know this better than me. Kind of sprung out of that.
I think, I would totally agree. And it was funny. I was sitting. It was my last year. It was 2012. And we had just been acquired by Emerald, Nielsen, whatever.
Right.
And what I loved about WPPI before the sale was we became, we were always a small boat. We could be like, that's a great idea. Turn left. And
right.
we can.
Right.
Once you kind of get into these bigger kind of
Aircraft
corporations,
carrier.
It's hard. And I get it. I totally understand it.
That's
how it goes. And so I've always been better in those situations. When it kind of got bigger, I'm not as good. I'll be totally honest. I'm not great in those situations.
Different environment.
It's a different environment. I like to move fast.
Different way
our
of doing
poor
things.
staff. The problem is now, it's myself and all my other business partners. We all like to move fast.
You need to give everybody a month off.
Oh my God! They just look at us going like, "Really? Great." I mean, it's just, but.
Well, because now it's you and Craig and Aaron and Sue,
right.
and Aaron and Craig in particular are also from
Creative
Live. Aaron was our first. He was. It was.
That's right.
I
He
think
was your
our
first
show
producer.
was his first show.
That's
maybe.
right. Yeah.
And he was our first one. And that first day, you may or may not remember, was rough.
Oh, I remember. By the way, no pun intended, because there were 15 dogs on set, and it was like a really ridiculously hot day in Seattle, and the studio was like. It was like 90 because you couldn't have fans on because it wrecks the audio.
Yeah.
And so you just had these like sweaty dogs, and it just kind of smelled gross.
It was rough. It was a rough one.
By the way, Vicky, your wife, is one of the nicest people on the planet. She shot me a look that day that was like, I'm going to kill you. I don't think she has a mean bone in her body. She shot me a look that day. It was like, what the hell did you get me into?
And that's putting it very nicely. You might not know this, but she came home that night and she laid on the couch at 6:00. She was asleep by 6:30 and slept till 7 the next morning before she came back. But she said to me, it was such a horrible day, and all I know and she doesn't talk like this either. She said, I just know in my bones, in the deepest recesses of my soul, that I can't go back there tomorrow. Oh. That's what she said.
Now I feel bad.
That's what she said. And I was like, oh, you'll be fine. She fell asleep.
And then she woke up and did it.
And she did. Great. She came back. And Craig took me to the side that day, and he was like, man, I have never seen someone turn it around so quickly and so well. Because the next 2 days were really,
I wasn't
really
sure
great.
if she was going to show
but
up. But
Aaron was the rock star because that was his first thing.
Man,
and now you and Craig and Aaron working together with Sue, and you're killing it. in yet another small boat. Small boat to small boat to
Small
small boat.
I'm not good. I'll be the first one to admit I'm terrible on big boats. Small boats, I'm good because and I like that kind of energy of we can change fast, but you have to have people that are like that, like-minded
with you. Yeah, you gotta have those people.
They're
with
throwing
the oars.
you out of the boat.
Right. So what's next?
That is a great question. Well, first of all, I think I'm going to sleep for a week. And then we're going to figure out how do we make this bigger and better. That was the thing that I always loved about WPPI. There was you would go home, you would sleep for a week, and then usually on the flight back, I'd be like, ooh, we could do that. Ooh, we can do that.
Oh, you already have the
All
ideas.
of a sudden, the ideas start
pop,
boom, boom. Ooh, we could do that. Ooh, what if we did this?
Yeah.
Oh, we got Blues Traveler. Can we get the Rolling Stones? You start, you have some crazy ideas, and then you have I would write this giant manifesto every year when we get back. It's Operation 20,000. How are we going to get to 20,000? It'd be all these crazy ideas, and then we would just all sit there and have a meeting with everybody and deep dive and be like, all right, you're crazy on 4 of these, but one of these might work. And we would put it in something like Launchpad, which they still have. And it's awesome. The idea of it was for companies to launch new products at WPPI.
Right.
And so we would do free drinks and food in there. God, there's kind of a theme of free drinks. I should probably change that.
It works.
But I guess. But, Launchpad, and I went to it last year. It was awesome.
Yeah.
There was a ton of people there.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to encourage people to encourage companies to launch products there because PMA back in the day had gone away, and that's where people went to a lot of companies went to launch products. So those kind of things that would pop in your head and oh man, that's fun. That's when it's fun, when and I feel that's what we're on here. We've already had internal discussions of 10 crazy things that we're going to do next year.
Some of them will make the cut. Some of them
will make the cut. Some of them won't. But that's the fun part of the job where you get to be okay, how do we make this experience better? How do we top it?
Right.
And this experience has been amazing, I think, for these guys. You get $1,000 worth of products. You get a shoot in the shooting bays on the trade
pretty high
trade
for
show.
yourself.
I know, damn it. I don't know what we're gonna do, but I love the challenge, and that's part of being in the small boat. Because if you're in a big boat, and again, not taking anything away from them, they all do great shows in their own right. We just can't. I'm a small boat guy. I work fast. I'm sure there'll be people that have worked with me in the past listening to this going he's a crazy person. And
if you don't have people like that, then what have you been doing?
That's true.
Come on.
That's true.
Come on.
I agree.
Okay. Hey, listen, thanks for doing this. Here we are at your conference, and you're taking the time out to do this.
Well, one,
really
I would do anything for you. And two, I don't know, I'm really happy I did this. I don't love doing these, but actually had a really good time doing this. So thank you.
It was great.
It was good.
And I'll let you get back to the chaos that's getting ready to wrap up this evening. But well done.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you guys were a part of this and you got to see it.
As am I.
Because we've been going to these shows forever, right? And they all kind of mesh together after a while.
No, I get it.
Wait, were we at that party in Nashville, or was that New Orleans, or wait, were we at the MGM, or were we at Bally's? Where
was
were
that
we?
Paris?
Right, was that Paris? God,
I can't remember.
They made some great crepes. But yeah, they all kind of merged together. So I really wanted you guys to see this because I felt I've done so many of these, and I've been on both sides. I've been the show organizer, and then I've been going to a lot of these things, and we just wanted to create something that was different because I felt these have gotten a little. I think it
lethargic.
It needed a little shock.
I think you created something different, and I really do believe you've created something better. And my hat is off to you. And I plan on coming back next year. And I can promise you, my wife will be back next year.
Awesome.
In whatever capacity she has to be.
That is great. We would love to have her. She really is the best, and you're the best. And
thank you.
Everybody at WHCC is great. And
I appreciate that.
I really support. I love all the support you guys have given us, and I think we have a really good trade show floor of vendors that are. They're great.
They're the right vendors.
They're the right vendors.
Yeah. That's integrity, brother. I appreciate it. That's who you are.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you for the time.
Man, I actually had a lot of fun. This was
Surprise.
great.
Surprise.
Let's do this every week. We can have like a morning talk show.
Well, okay, then until next week.
Yeah, okay, great.
See you, dude.
See ya.